Good morning. Good morning. That's amazing. Thank you for that. It's very decent of you to respond like that. We'll just wait for a couple of people to sit down here. Welcome to everyone to the inaugural Logan Symposium in London, entitled Building an Alliance Against Secrecy, Surveillance, and Censorship. My name is Richard Logan. I'm one of the directors of the Reva and David Logan Foundation, and our foundation has a long and strong commitment to the principles of press freedom and the preservation of individual rights. It is a great honor for us to sponsor this symposium, a gathering of like-minded and courageous people, individuals, both journalists and hacktivists who are here, who every day put their livelihoods and sometimes their very lives on the line. And for what? To discover the truth, to expose the lies, and to get their findings into the public domain. It isn't getting easier to do the work. Our rights and even the laws are being disregarded by giant corporations and by our own governments. The public has learned to distrust the faceless entities. Yet surprisingly, even with the host of recent revelations, there hasn't been a groundswell in demand for change, simply more apathy and fatalism among the public at large, a tragedy. I, like you, am optimistic that it's not too late to reverse the trend. And that's why we're here, to ask 1,000 questions, to learn the latest techniques, and together search for the best ways forward. We need to change our societies to ensure the rights of individuals are preserved and respected. A brief reading of history, even recent history, should be enough of a warning. But who knows? Hopefully, this symposium will be a platform for debate and a vehicle for some of that very much needed change. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce you to the young man who is really responsible for this stellar program that follows over the next 3 days. His blurb on the website doesn't really do him justice, nor will I for that matter, except to say that he is exceptionally modest, an actor, a producer, a journalist with an unwavering commitment to the highest standards of journalism and ideals of freedom and justice, a teacher, a man who is known to consume curries that are so hot as to be banned by international treaties. He is both a serious troublemaker and my friend, the leader of the Center of Investigative Journalism and your host, Gavin McFadgen.
It's very hard to figure out what to say after that. Thank you for that. It's a great pleasure to welcome everyone here. And it's an extraordinary assemblage of people. And there are, as many of you will know, 3 distinct groups here. And we're hoping that given the purpose and the fundament of this meeting, that those 3 will actually function together in interesting and unexpected ways. The 3 groups, of course, are whole groups of investigative reporters and some regular, ordinary reporters who are very welcome, hackers of all kinds from a number of countries, and their friends and supporters and sponsors. I hope you'll all meet and get to know some of the other that you are with, because this is the base reason for this whole affair, is that given the extraordinary dilemmas confronting journalists and hackers both, there's a natural community of interest between all of them. And we're trying to, as a way to fertilize as much as we can precisely that combination of forces. I think for 2 reasons. One is because the attacks on journalists have increased. There are, as we'll learn in the rest of the symposium, 150 or so killed in the last immediate while in many places around the world, and a very large and growing number of hackers being imprisoned, some for astonishingly long sentences, which is particularly horrific given the fact that some of them are even teenagers. And the thing that brought them all together, and to which this symposium is dedicated, is the notion that there is a free internet, that there is a free press, and there's a free speech. And we share all of those things together with all three groups. And I think nothing could be more admirable in a way and worthy of all of your having come here and participated in, I hope. I'll just say a brief word that CIJ, that sponsoring the organization, was started about 12 years ago by TV journalists as a nonprofit, and is now one of the larger, if not the largest, training institution for investigators in Europe. We're based at Goldsmiths at the University of London, and we do a lot of basic shoe leather skills, data journalism, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, for those who don't know it, covert recording, cross-border collaborations, libel, business documents. We do a lot of training in those areas. But we've got two new things that we've decided to do, given the change in temperature that partly justified this meeting. One of them is whistleblowers. We decided that whistleblowers were an endangered commodity. They were people who took enormous risks to tell the truth about things they saw in their workplace, but were not protected. And often the journalists, particularly younger journalists, don't understand the critical necessity of protecting them as sources and protecting what they do, as well as their own work and their own reputations. So we launched, in a way, an initiative which was to provide and build an organization of defense of whistleblowers, which is what we've done. And towards that end, we supply organizational capacity, psychological counselors, because a lot of the people are really damaged in the process of standing up, and legal support, pro bono legal support. And we've raised money from a number of sources to do that, and it's two organizations now exist in Britain, largely as a result of our efforts, to help support these people and to encourage them to stand up. And towards that end, there's going to be some excellent conversation later these days about what goes on in the whistleblowing community. The second thing we've done, which none of us have done before, is get involved in information security, and which is another reason why these various groups have come together here for this event. We now train whole groups of journalists, and now increasingly, we hope, lawyers, to protect their sources, to protect themselves and their stories. Nothing is now not being observed. Everything, as you well know, from the Snowden discoveries and the information that's actually been in the public domain for many years, is that everything is being hoovered up. Everything. The only restraint on action is so far their ability to process so much information. But that'll given the fact that they've just hired 20,000 people, apparently, in this last while, that will now be being addressed by the NSA and GCHQ. So we now do training sessions all over Britain, trying to teach journalists and lawyers what they can do to protect themselves by altering their means of communication, by taking real cautions and cares. Towards that end, we were really influenced by some extraordinary things that we've seen. One of them is the CCC in Germany, the Chaos Computer Club in Germany, which does a lot of this kind of training and is a very creative, open marketplace for free ideas about the internet and free ideas about the free press, and more importantly, about computer security, how to protect yourself and to protect your family and friends, and most importantly, of course, your sources. And they are invaluable to us in providing an inspiration that enables us to go forward in that way. So we're very interested and in pursuing that very aggressively. And towards that end, we've commissioned a handbook, which is available to anybody here, which is very, very recent. It's just been completed in the last weeks. So it's very up to date about how to protect yourself, how to use Tails, how to use Tor and encryption, and all the methods that you need to do and know about, at least some of them, to protect yourselves against the kind of invasive authoritarian surveillance that is now totally commonplace, and to which, sadly, we have to say so many journalists don't seem particularly aware, which is curiously disturbing, given the fact that there's no doubt whatsoever, factually, that that's what's going on. So rather than I going on at great length, I just make a few housekeeping announcements, if I may. There is, as you know, a pop-up TV studio here run by kids. And they want to interview all the speakers, and they're called News Speaks Live. And so any conversations that start here can be ended there. You can go and follow speakers from here to that thing and participate in those conversations, and it'll all be filmed. It's in Frobisher 5 and 6. Those are rooms just down the corridor from here. Now, towards that end, I would just say that we must get immediately to the subject at hand. And the subject at hand is going to be run by Laura Flanders from Grit TV, and she's going to be talking to somebody you'll all know, Seymour Hersh. So, off to you guys.